What's going on, everybody? And welcome to the first of many Kentucky Derby podcasts right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Of course, starting with the 129th edition of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe. And like I said, we got a fun one for you tonight as we kick off our Kentucky Derby coverage with the Kentucky Derby Longshots. So the way this show is going to work, guys, is we're going to go through, based on projected morning line odds, the bottom 10 horses in the morning line pecking order. So we'll go from 20 to 11. And again, you guys can argue whether these horses will be this price. I know there's a couple in here that seem a little bit ridiculous that they're in the bottom 10, but you have a lot of buzz going on through these weeks. Lots of horses that are taking, early interest because of how they're working over the Churchill Downs track and stuff like that. So kind of had to take a little bit of a leap of faith, as you will. So we're going to cover, again, 20 through 11, spend about 3 to 5 minutes on each horse. And again, feel free to comment in the live chat for any opinions as you guys have as we go along, because I know you guys have some as we get closer and closer to the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby. But again, welcome in, everybody. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. We greatly appreciate it. If you guys are new here or find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't subscribed, why not? You're already coming back anyway. Please go down below the video player, hit the like button, and hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it, again, if you enjoy the content. But not only that, go down below the video player after this podcast, or if you're watching this as a replay, comment who your favorite long shot. It could even be one that we didn't mention in this podcast, but please feel free to comment down below the video player on who's your best long shot for this year's Kentucky Derby. Of course, since we are covering the bottom 10 horses, keep an eye out here on the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel for a show covering the top 10 horses, which will be coming your way very, very shortly. Of course, guys, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor is where you can watch every single episode posted here to the HHH Racing Podcast, not only of Bettin N Boozin, but of all our shows, which, as you see scrolling bottom screen now, Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern is Intermittent Mondays, is Horsin Around. So please tune in for that. Tuesdays, every single week at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, is Pacific Horseplayers. This week, they covered the fantastic Santa Anita Late Pick 5. So go check that out if you missed it after this podcast, right here with Bettin N Boozin every single Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, but always, and then Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern as well with Picks and Ponies, Howard, Pete, and Paul. Go there. And again, you can listen to all of those in audio form, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Guys, TikTok and Instagram at Bettin N Boozin Podcast. Been posting a lot more short form content over there, and might post a preview for every single stakes race on the Kentucky Derby card. So you'll want to be tuned in for that. And speaking of the Kentucky Derby, the Oaks and Derby package is now available from us at hhhracingpodcast.com. And I can show you guys exactly how that works. Just give me 2 seconds to get there. Why not show you guys exactly how it goes? So this is what it'll look like if you guys go to hhhracingpodcast.com. It's our fantastic website built by Pete Visco. And you can see at the top of the screen, you'll see click here to subscribe to the Kentucky Derby Oaks Power Picks tip sheet. You can see what's included with the purchase: full Kentucky Derby card, full Kentucky Oaks card, includes pick 5 ABC grids, top 3 stake selections from every single co-host here on the HHH Racing Podcast, best bets, long shot plays, and of course those spot and price plays that you guys all know and love from our normal power picks that come out every single Saturday. How do you guys get involved? Of course, it's a one-time payment if you're a current power pick subscriber or a non-current power pick subscriber. However, you do get that discount for the current power pick subscribers. But even if you're not, it's only a $50 payment. A lot of these packages go for $75, even upwards of $100 and more. And you guys are going to get over 20 pages for both from both days. It's a ton of information, guys. And I'm not saying this with a complete bias, but we give very good information. Again, you guys can see the process of all of our picks that we give out. So highly recommend if you haven't done this already. So please go out to hhhracingpodcast.com. And the ways you can pay are either through PayPal or Venmo to Howard directly. And if you want more information on how the payment works, please go to hhhracingpodcast.com. And again, as I mentioned before, Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast is how you get our normal power picks that are given out every single Saturday. And as part of the power picks, you do get a derby on the Kentucky Derby. However, it is a lot more condensed and is not as much not nearly as much information. So I would highly recommend that if you're already there, spending the $40 extra to get all that information that's in the Kentucky Derby and Oaks Power Picks package. But guys, like I said, we got a ton of information to cover. I see a bunch of people in the chat already. I will definitely be going through there, and then we'll get right into the handicapping. Katie, of course, was here bright and early. Katie, thanks so much for joining the show. Christopher, what's going on, my friend? Good to see you in the chat again. Says Kyle of all of Bettin N Boozin. Always love your loving your content. Let's start brainstorming. Going to be a special Derby weekend for me, and hopefully it's going to be a special Derby weekend for all of us. So, Christopher, thanks so much for joining the show, man. Greatly appreciate it. Tom Espinoza is here. Seth Morris, I see that. Unfortunately, I can't put that up, but hey, whatever tickles your fancy, man. Everyone loves betting around here. It's just a matter of how you do the other thing. Absolutely. I appreciate, though, you joining the show, Seth. Again, greatly appreciate. Terry Frank is here, of course. Again, guys, if you guys are just joining in, please comment in the live chat. It's to the right side of the screen on both YouTube and X as we go through these Kentucky Derby long shots. I'm going to bring on my co-host. I'll explain quickly for those that are just joining in what we're going to be doing this show, and then we'll get right into the analysis from the East Coast of New Jersey, Patrick Kunsel, and of course from the Ohio State University, Charlie Freeman is here, and maybe a special guest coming on later in the show. Guys, what's going on?
Nothing much. How we doing?
Yeah, today's been a very relaxed day. Not much with finals, and as my bio sums up right now, I love the Turf Pick 3 and I love dominoes. That's how I'm feeling right now. Kyle,
yeah.
You get it.
Yeah. Charlie, I'll even read it just for everyone else. The text that I got sent earlier in the day was two best. What did you say exactly, Charlie? Let me
I said the two greatest inventions known to mankind: 2 medium pizzas from Domino's for $14 and the Turf Pick 3
at Keeneland. So that was.
Yeah.
Would you hit the Turf Pick 3 today?
Yes,
I did.
Trust me, we heard all about it.
Nice. How did it come back? All right.
Yeah, no, my bet was $20 and I won 400, so I can't complain.
There you go.
And
that's
with
what makes that
Chalk,
bet so
Chalk,
special.
and second choice, I believe.
Yeah,
Charlie?
it was Chalk, second choice, or third choice.
Did it have that Chad to start, right?
Yeah, I had the Chad to start. Yeah, 6 to 5, and then it was. I think the longest shot of all of them was maybe 7 to 2 or 3 to 1, and it paid that well. So
I needed the 13, and this is the Keeneland of very nice, solid fourths and thirds for me. So I'm doing it really well so far this Keeneland me. But guys, let's get right into the analysis here. But yeah, Charlie did hit a good one earlier, so it pays to listen to Bettin N Boozin. But guys, we will get right into it. Again, 20 through 11, we're going to talk about 3 to 5 minutes and replays to boot if we can. But guys, going to start with the 20th horse in the Derby gates. Of course, we don't have post positions, but we're going off of morning line odds, and the horse that I project is going to be the longest shot on the board is Flying Mohawk for 2-8 Racing. Of course, Jason Worth, super happy to have him with a horse in the Derby field trained by Whitworth Beckman. Joseph Ramos takes them out, which fantastic for him. I love he rides a lot of our Crowns Way horses, so very happy to see him get into the field. And as I'm going to show the PPs as well. It pops up on the screen for Flying Mohawk. Again, Charlie, these first couple horses are going to be very high odds. I still think the Rich Strike effect is going to take into account here. Probably not going to see a horse over 80 to 1, but Flying Mohawk is going to have to improve those buyers if he wants any chance of getting in the money. But the other thing we're going to do, guys, sorry, I forgot to mention, is as we go through, Patrick and Charlie, at the end of what you guys are going to talk about, I want you guys to give a 1 to 10 rating on how likely each one of these horses is to get into the top 4 for these people, for their trifectas and superfectas. So, yeah. Patrick, please start. Sorry, Patrick, please start with Flying Mohawk, and then Charlie, go into you next.
Yeah, no, listen, Flying Mohawk was flying late in the Jeff Ruby Stakes last out. Ended up finishing second in a race that did tend to prefer closers, as that was more of a faster pace. as we did watch in that race with Final Gambit winning that race. What I'll say is Flying Mohawk probably has a better future on the turf. Has run very well on the turf, but obviously gets in here due to that finish in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. What I do think here, though, is we can say that the Jeff Ruby Stakes has known to be pretty good in years past, right? A couple horses that we could think of over the years have come out of there and run pretty well. Rich Strike, just to name one. And Two Phils,
yes,
who came in second in, I believe that was 23. So, yeah, listen, Flying Mohawk's going to be probably the longest shot, as Kyle said. If I had to rank this horse on my 1 to 10, I would probably say a 2.
I don't mind that at all. 2 for Flying Mohawk from Patrick. Charlie, anything you want to add with Flying Mohawk is, again, this is most likely the longest shot on the board.
Yeah, to me, shouldn't actually be the longest shot on the board. I would say towards there, though. I think based off of the draft we had, if you guys didn't watch that show, check it out. It was a fun time that we had our draft on Monday. I think Owen Almighty, when we get to that horse, should be the clear longest shot on the board. That being said, I'd give Flying Mohawk realistically. I'm probably right around where Pat is. I'd probably say a 2.5 to 3 out of 10 for a chance to hit the superfecta. Look, the efforts are there. Has some okay numbers. I'm sorry to do a sore subject for you, Kyle, but beat States Rights 2-back, who's obviously a nice horse. But yeah, a nice turf horse. This could be, as Kyle likes to call it, a case of DFS, as we talk about, and probably a horse who is more meant for turf that would honestly probably benefit from scratching out of this race and going into a big turf race other than this. But assuming he does run, I think he has some ability. He's tactical. By no means, even in his earlier races when it looked like he wanted to be more forward, he showed the ability to be a little more tactical, as we saw at Turfway. And I know he is working on the dirt now, but none of his works on dirt have really gotten any sort of noticeable feedback in a positive way. He's light on numbers. He seems more like a turf horse. A lot would have to go his way. We'll get to it later, but I think we all agree if you're taking a horse from the Jeff Ruby, I think we'd all lean more towards Final Gambit.
I think that's definitely 1 point. 1 out of 10, Charlie. How likely is this horse to get in the superfecta?
I'd say I'll go 2.5. I'm slightly more optimistic than Pat.
2.5 as opposed to Pat's 2. One more guy we need to get opinions from for Flying Mohawk, and quickly gonna bring on the boss man himself. Howard, how we doing?
I'm doing good. Not so quickly. I'm going to hang around for a while if that's okay. I mean, I know you're hosting the show, Kyle. I don't want to interrupt your flow.
Kick him off whenever you please, Kyle. Kick him off whenever you please.
Damn.
Wow. Hey, Kyle, you want to go to the Derby in a week and a half? I think I have a.
Let's go.
Charlie was, Mr. South Beach. Now he's hitting turf pick 3s at Keeneland. He didn't usually play Keeneland that much. We're going to have to call him Mr. Lexington. Charlie's on a roll. What's up, Charlie? Congrats on that turf pick 3 today.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was a very, very solid scores, very narrow ticket, just stuck to my guns. And yeah, this is the benefit, folks, of when the last week of Keeneland matches up with when you have one final, so you have a lot of time. I appreciate my teachers for knowing I needed this time to handicap, because that's my current studying schedule right now. But,
there you go. Thanks for everyone joining us tonight. I'm letting Kyle host tonight because we've got a show later, but I wanted to jump on and talk about some long shots in case some people want to hear my opinion. I mean, you never know. Flying Mohawk, guys, this is the typical Derby fever syndrome. I mean, poster child. Why isn't this horse in the $1 million 3-year-old American Derby on turf on Derby Day, right? I mean, highest buyer 84. Yeah. Now, I will say this. He was a spot play on our wonderful Power Pick tip sheet on March 22nd, and he did his job. I liked him underneath, finished a solid second to Final Gambit, who I'm sure we're going to talk about here tonight.
Yep.
Nice horse. I give him a 0.5 chance out of 10 to get in the super. I wonder if the ownership was a little bit different, if they'd be in the American Derby. But look, they deserve to be there based on the points.
Yep.
I'm not even sure the synthetic race should be a Derby prep, but look, I don't want to rant. This is your show. Anyway, not much of a chance, but it will be a nice turf horse this year.
Yeah, look, and like I said, the ownership group, it's fantastic for what, for racing and how Jason Worth is getting a bunch of people in. 1 out of 10 for me, superfecta. This just seems like a quintessential turf horse running in the synthetic at the Jeff Ruby, runs super well, gets in the Derby, but it's probably not what he wants to do. So 1 out of 10 for me for Flying Mohawk. Guys, going to move into number 19 on the odds board for the 2025 Kentucky Derby, and that is the horse that wasn't supposed to be in the Derby, but now is back in for some odd reason. I agree with that, Howard. It is Owen Almighty, and that is Flying Dutchman Racing LLC. Brian Lynch, your trainer. Jose Ortiz does hop on to this horse come the first Saturday in May, and obviously he's riding super well down at Keeneland, but I mentioned it before. Charlie, I'll let you start first. This is a horse that was obviously in the Derby by points, then was out of the Derby because Brian Lynch said, "Ray, we're going to go to the Pat Day Mile because we think the horse is better suited not going 10 furlongs." And then they're like, "You know what? No, we're going to go back in the Derby," which that I think this is the quintessential poster child for the DFS, as Paul Halloran likes to say. But Charlie, look, Owen Almighty, Tampa Bay Derby went slow, but I mean, he ran well that day. It's just a matter of in a Derby with a lot of pace, he's going to need a lot of things to go right.
Yeah, look, this was a horse that I really liked in the Iroquois. I was trying to be different and beat Jonathan's way, and I thought he ran really well in that race and showed to me that he's a great horse at a mile. That really nice battle with John Hancock where they went toe-to-toe at a mile and a 60th at Tampa, and that really looked like probably the maximum of what he wants. And then they ran him at a mile and 16th again, and he got a police escort to victory and unsurprisingly won. And then they stretched him out to a mile and an eighth, and to no one's surprise, pushing him beyond what his limits were when he's not getting a police escort across the finish line. He did not run so well. And then Brian Lynch, who I think is a fantastic and underrated trainer and continues to build his name, does what any wise trainer would do and say, hey, with all due respect, this is not where he points to. His best efforts are at a mile. Let's have him run at a mile. They choose that, and then they change their mind. And I'm going to make a joke, but Big Truz, who's also owned by Flying Dutchman, was the horse we got to see at Keeneland and run. I would give Big Truz about as much of a chance as I'd give Owen Almighty to get this job done. I would give this horse if I was allowed to do negatives, I would, but since I can't, I will go 0.1 stars out of 10 for reaching the superfecta.
I mean, Howard, I don't think he really said anything wrong. Charlie just does it in the Charlie way, crapping on anything he can. But it's an interesting decision. It just has to be said. It's an interesting.
I like this. I like the speed for Sandman. Also, I will say that I'll take a little more.
That's what it doesn't mean. My next.
Well, I think all I will say is just listen to Paul's excellent rant that we had last week about this horse. Look, we'd all like to own this horse. I mean, he's won $500,000, guys. He's a good horse. This is the appeal. This is what people have to understand. And I'll get off my high horse in 15 seconds. There's a lot of really good, nice horses in this race. Owen Almighty is a nice horse. He just doesn't belong in this race. It's just that simple.
And I mean, I couldn't agree more. Howard, I'm guessing your score is going to be low for this horse to finish your superfecta.
I'm glad you put in that context, Kyle, because just we don't like a horse to win. There is something called superfectas and other bets. No, this horse has a great chance to finish last. I wish the connections luck. Well, look,
yeah,
Patrick,
no.
we got to keep it real here. I mean,
I know. It's just the way you set it up.
Well, I don't like when owners go against their own trainers as if they know better. I don't look. If we all had a chance to be in the Derby, I know it's easier said than done. I'd like to think we'd make the smart decision. So good luck to them, but they have zero chance.
And I just wanted to say before Pat goes on,
unless something really bizarre happens.
Yeah, and I was just going to say before Pat goes in real quick, I just wanted to back what Howard was saying. By no means am I trashing that Owen Almighty's a bad horse. If this was a mile, if this horse was running the Pat Day Mile, it'd be a completely different discussion. It's strictly this horse does not want this race or distance.
Yeah, I mean, Pat, you can attest to that. Anything else you want to add and give your score? I don't think it's going to be very high, but
no, I mean, I'd give it a 1. I hope this horse shows as much pace as possible, early speed. Heat it up even more. That's all I got to say.
And
Pat, they said this horse is better on the lead, but so did Rodriguez, and so did what's going to happen. Someone's going to walk the dog. Someone's going to walk the dog in 48 seconds and a half.
Oh gosh!
That's gonna. Don't even speak.
Are we doing that for every horse, Kyle? I'm sorry, I wasn't here at the beginning.
Yeah, we're gonna do just a 1 out of 10 of every horse. It's all good.
All right, 0.01.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I joked already on the Kentucky Derby show, the Derby Fantasy Draft show that we did. When we have our team, Patrick, has a good solid chance to have 21 points before the race starts. As we have journalism and we have this horse. Of course, you want the lowest score. Journalism would get a 1 if he wins the race, and Owen Almighty is a strong candidate for 20 points.
You're just handing this race to journalism. Huh?
No, that's not what I said, but he has a good
I think
chance.
You just said that you'd have 21.
We have a good chance to have 21.
It could be 2 and 19.
Let me think.
Could be 2 and 19. That's still 21.
4 plus 19 is not anyway.
That's 23 points, and either way, it's still proving my point with this horse. 0.33 to be different out of 10. He's good, like I said, he's going to have a lot of stuff to have to go right for this horse to finish in the top 10. But guys, again, we'll keep it moving. But this one is a little bit hard to go against for a lot of our guys with Chicago roots. The number 18 horse we're going to talk about today is trained by the actual Arlington legend in Wayne Catalano, and that is, of course, built for Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners. Again, the Catman trains. This also has actually Jose Ortiz listed, but I have it to my left here if I can find him on the screen. So actually, no, that one doesn't have it. So either way, this one also has Jose Ortiz listed. He's going to have a big choice between these two horses. But look, Built's another one that run very good races early. Just, again, might not be a horse. And Howard, I'll let you go first with Built. I don't think he's going to be a horse that wants this type of distance. But again, it's got to be said something, because Eclipse is not going to be ones to have this Derby fever syndrome. Maybe they want a horse in the Derby, but Built's a tough one to kind of make a case for in this race.
Shout out to Noah's professor, and I'm sorry I don't recall his name, but Noah has a professor at University of Kentucky that has a piece of this horse. Actually,
nice.
I met him at Keeneland last year when he broke his maiden. When Built broke his maiden, I was there with Noah. So shout out to Noah's professor. Look, again, another nice horse, another horse who has very little chance. I thought he ran pretty well against Magnitude. I mean, Magnitude ran off the screen in the Risen Star. And I mean, it's quite amazing to me that he was, 5.5 to 1 Louisiana Derby. I mean, so he's a little bit of an in and out, a little bit of a yin yang kind of deal. Wow, Razor Sharp. There we go, Razor Sharp. Thanks, man. You are amazing.
My man.
Thanks,
my
Razor
man.
Sharp.
Shout out to Razor Sharp Picks. Of course, a guy that's been supporting the podcast for a long time, but also has his own show on YouTube. Thank you so much for the donation, Razor. Really, really appreciate it.
But anyway, I know we got to move things along here. A nice horse will be forward. I like what Noah said in the chat. Has a chance to have the lead at the top of the stretch or be somewhere, and then he will do a very quick, slow. Well, not quick. A slow fade to 17th.
Think that's fair. So, Patrick, anything you want to add, and then just give your score for most likely to finish in the Superfecta?
Oh, sorry, I didn't do that.
Or your score.
I'm going to go 1.
I think that's, Patrick?
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess I got to go with a 2, considering I had Flying Mohawk as a 2. But I think this horse, another horse that should be in the Pat Day Mile. I don't see much else in here, but very talented. So.
Speaking of that, the Pat Day Mile is shaping up to be a pretty damn good race in and of itself. Charlie?
Yeah, I think this horse could run on for a solid 17th to 19th and beat Owen Almighty confidently. I'd give it 1.5 to 2 stars out of 10. Those last 2 efforts aren't bad, but they just scream that he can't get this distance and not with this pace.
Yeah, and the thing is that I like a little bit more about Built is, granted, it was his slowest race of this year, but he showed the ability to at least pass horses, let alone probably, fading back, tiring horses, but pass horses nonetheless. I give him 3 at maximum, trying to pass maybe top 10 capability if he does show up to pass horses, but he doesn't want the distance. And again, Pat makes a strong case, could be one for a Pat Day Mile, but that's already, again, pretty oversubscribed with some very, very good horses. So Built, again, going to be another tough one to make it into your Superfecta. Guys, let's move again. Let's keep it moving along. And this one, we got to go overseas for this one. And unfortunately, of course, we will not have much to go off of. But the 20th horse to make it in, and this is the winner of the UAE Derby. It is Admire Daytona. Junko Kondo is your owner. Yukihiro Kato is your trainer. And again, this is a horse that ran in the UAE Derby, was on the lead the whole time, pressured. But again, another horse that we've talked about in these bottom four that should show a lot of speed. Patrick, you are going to have the first crack at Admire Daytona. Again, not too much to go off of on the PPs necessarily, but still one that he's going to be backed a little bit, at least based on overseas with the Japanese connections. Japan's going to bet this horse. Kind of has a very similar vibe to T.O. Password in a way. However, T.O. Password was definitely wasn't as tested at the distance as Admire Daytona was, especially with the UAE Derby win.
Yeah, winning those 100 points in the the Churchill's Euro Mid-East Road to the Kentucky Derby, as you said, Kyle. Winning by a nose in that race. Didn't break from the inside. Watching that replay, did end up moving up to first at the turn, and kind of responded pretty well with multiple challenges. I thought at the far turn and into the stretch, and holding off a pretty solid horse. Now the challenge here is going to be able to improve off that race. I mean, that shipping halfway across the country, across the world, I should say. This is going to be a tall task. But I do think there's something here. I think this horse does have plenty of talent, as we've said with most horses in this field.
And what's your score, Pat?
I'll give it a 3.
3? Okay. Like I said, another one that is going to be seen as a little bit competitive, but definitely top 4. It might be a little bit tough of a challenge. Charlie, going to go to you next.
Yeah. Look, this is the first, well, actually technically last member of me and Noah's team in the draft. So we're really hoping that this horse freaks kind of like T.O. Password did and just sends like hell and then somehow manages to run, a really decent effort. I'd say if I'm being unbiased and not just hoping the horse runs better than Noah and I need, I think the best case scenario is probably somewhere in like the 10 to 13 range. And the realistic scenario, I'd say probably 14 to 18 makes a lot of sense for him. Yeah, like Noah said, in a weird way, key to the race. I agree. I think this horse is a complete wild card for the pace situation and what happens, where he ends up being. Was fourth last time, but fought like hell and won gamely. Got to give credit. Also another good comment from Katie. The post will matter. I'd give the horse probably, again, 2 to 2.5 stars out of 10 to get in there.
And again, Howard, like I mentioned, he was on the lead in the UAE Derby. He was pressured the whole time, and you can argue whether that was the best UAE Derby field at all or not, but he showed fight all the way through the wire. Christophe Lemaire is aboard, and I believe he's coming over to ride this horse for the Kentucky Derby. So obviously one of the best jockeys in the world. Got to take at least a little bit of credit. But again, key to the race and with whatever post this horse gets, gonna be it's gonna depend a lot on the tactics of this horse.
Yeah, he's going. I mean, I host fail or co-host fail in this case. I don't recall Christophe Lemaire rode a few years ago. I'm sure someone in the chat will put it when he went really fast early and sort of created a crazy pace situation that was a Rich Strike here, I think. So I can't recall who he was riding. I'm sure someone will put it in the chat. Guys, look back in the November 23rd race. He was right there at Luxor Cafe. Now, that was only a mile. That was last year. He was very game. This is a horse. I'm going to give this horse, we're going out of 10, right? For the, I'd say I'm going to go up to 3. I wouldn't be shocked if this horse somehow finds a way to get in the super. I just have a ton of respect for these Japanese horses. Now, the sire Defrong, who you young guys probably don't know, but was a very, very good sprinter. But Defrong is by Gio Ponti. And then Shackelford on the dam side. So this has got a lot of American pedigree here. Shackelford was in the Derby also. I know he was best going like 1 turn, but he was okay going 2 turns. This one is interesting to maybe hit the super. I wish them well, and I hope they're sending hard.
Yeah, and look, guys, this again, as I mentioned before, this horse to me is a lot of T.O. Password-esque to this type of horse, just because he's a lot of speed. People said T.O. Password has absolutely no chance. He's going to get into the race, going to inject a lot of pace, which Admire Daytona should be doing that. But T.O. Password ran 5th last year, and people absolutely wrote him off. I give Admire Daytona, just for the fight that he was able to show down in a deep track in UAE, I give him a 3.5. I could easily see something where even if maybe if he doesn't get the lead, he runs one paced in like the pocket type trip and runs 4th, 5th, 6th. I could easily see something like that happening. Although, again, as we mentioned with a lot of earlier horses that we've talked about, a lot of stuff is going to have to go the correct way for him to run something like that. But I don't see it as completely impossible. And Howard, to your point, I looked it up to my left. It was the Rich Strike year, and it was Crown Pride that Christophe Lemaire ran. So that, of course, Japanese connections, Lemaire Road, they went, like 21 or 21 and 3 or 22, something absolutely insanity for 1.25 miles. And, of course, set up for the second longest shot to ever win the Kentucky Derby. Howard, I know you know. I think I might just put the boys on the spot here because I don't think they know. Do you guys know who was the longest shot ever to win the Kentucky Derby?
I got no idea.
No idea.
Howard?
I do not. It wasn't mine.
It was a
bird.
long time ago.
No, it was before mine that bird. I do not know.
1913. This is my fun fact that I always pull out at Donerail at 91-1 at 1913. That's always the fun fact that I can pull out every now and again. So yeah, Donerail in 1913 of Rich Strike, of course, second at 80-1. So again, Admire Daytona, don't think he's completely out of it, like no chance out of it. But again, a lot of stuff's gonna have to go his way. Guys, again, we're halfway through now. Got 5 more horses to talk about here. But if you guys are enjoying the show, greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe because we're going to have a lot of Kentucky Derby coverage coming your way. And if you guys weren't here at the start of the show, I will go over our Power Picks package again here in a little bit. So stay tuned if you guys missed that at the start of the show. Going on, guys, I've seen a lot of love already for this horse in the chat. Charlie, I know you're high on this horse, so good thing that you talk first on him. It is Chunk of Gold. Ran second in the Louisiana Derby behind a horse we're also going to talk about here. Terry L. Stevens, the ownership. Ethan West and J. Love, our last recent Arlington legend, but ran very well down there. Glad he gets to have a mount here as long as everything goes well. Charlie, you've mentioned this horse a lot, and you guys, I believe, drafted him as well.
Yes.
He's going to have a favorable setup in this race. In theory, with a lot of speed, he's going to be either in the middle or towards the back. It's gonna have to be, can he get the distance better than some other horses in this race? But Chunk of Gold, like I said, one you're very high on to run well here.
Yeah, and was a very inexpensive purchase. This is a horse that I am very high on. I have this horse ranked 10th on my big board. I could not believe that Noah and I got him in the 3rd round. We really wanted him. We didn't know if it would actually happen. His last 2 efforts, the numbers certainly fit. I know everybody in that Risen Star race only really likes to look at Magnitude, which is fair because Magnitude ran an outrageous race. But they kind of just forget about everybody else that ran in it. And Chunk of Gold was the one who closed up for second. Then you look at their last race, everybody kind of looked at Tistastic pulling off that upset and only really focusing on that. And the other ass who said, and yada, 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 and other horses that disappointed. But Chunk of Gold was the one who, kind of just under the radar ran a really nice race and was able to get second. Obviously, Tistastic was able to go by him, but he also sat closer than he normally does at some decent fractions. I think he can get the distance for sure. He seems to be working fine. I love that Loveberry's aboard again. He's also, I know, a jockey that for those who aren't, Chicago guys like us is going to get overlooked, but, he had his success with 2 fills. It would not surprise me at all if Chunk of Gold got up into the supers, and I'll even be bold enough to say I think his ceiling, but it's not out of the picture. I would not be surprised if he got up for 3rd in the tries. I don't think it's impossible. I'd say in the tries, I'd probably put it at a 2 out of 10 realistically, but I think in terms of getting into the supers, I'd probably put him at a 4.5, 5 out of 10. I don't know if that's a little ambitious, but I think it could set up for him, and I think he's underrated. I don't think it's impossible.
Howard,
I would do the Kyle turn of the. Actually, I don't want to do that. I'm going to mess up.
I'll say 4.5. I'll round to 4.5.
Howard.
Oh boy, Charlie's really on some kind of medication after that pick 3 at that Keeneland that he hit. Look, this horse should be renamed Clunk of Gold, as in Clunk Up. It's an unbelievable story. First of all, the horse costs $2,500, guys.
I would buy
Kyle,
him.
someone who has ownership pieces of horses like I do, you have to appreciate that. It's unbelievable.
It's what you go for.
Yeah, and then you got some rich guy like Sandman that costs $1 whatever million.
Hey.
Anyway, seriously, I'm going to disagree with Charlie respectfully. The main reason I disagree with Charlie is I just don't like the fairgrounds races this year at all. He saved ground in both trips in the Rinsar and the Louisiana Derby. He was on the inside for the in general. He didn't really have to weave between horses or anything. He just clunked up. I mean, I know the second losing by 2.5 sort of looks good at Tistastic, but I don't think Tistastic's very good, guys. I don't like the New Orleans form. It's pretty much that simple. I give him 2 out of 10 to get in the Super. I think it's going to take more money than people think, which is not part of this conversation.
Right.
Great story. I don't like him, but it's the Derby, Pat. Weird things happen.
Yeah, I'm not too much of a fan either here. I do think he did get some soft setups in most races, as you said, Howard. I would give this horse a 2 on my scale.
The other thing with this horse is Cairo Prince is not generally a marathon type breeding. He's very good at sprinting, and he's very good. Obviously, Smokin' Jay was by Cairo Prince. Just a throwback there for everybody. But he's just not one that likes to go this type of marathon distance. And although I think the race pace sets well for him to, run, which in terms of you're talking about our fantasy draft, right? Chunk of Gold probably could be a decent pick just because he could run somewhere, 7th to 10th and still be good for our points in a format like that. But the problem is that I like Tistastic and a lot more than Chunk of Gold, just mainly because of Tistastic's breeding that we'll get to here in a little while. But Chunk of Gold, I think, to get into the Superfecta, I'd give it another 3.5. It's just not one that I think fully favors the 10 furlongs that this horse is going to run. Although, again, paired up by her tops, looks set for a move forward. That last work at Turfway was definitely serious. And I love the story for Ethan West, but again, stories also take a lot of money. And again, I agree with Howard. I think this one might take a little bit more money than people suspect, even though, again, that's not the conversation we're having here today. But again, a lot of people love him in the chat as well. Sorry, Howard, go ahead.
Well, and I don't want to interrupt. The preservationist arch on the male side, that is distance.
Correct.
But
that is,
we know how the female the bloodlines influences horses sometimes even more so than the male ones.
Right. No, and thank you for that. That's actually a really good point. And guys, in a little bit of a host fail, Charlie was quick to point it out. I did skip one horse that, again, it's another one that a lot of people have an affinity for, and we will take a look at. But of course, it's always nice to see the coach in these types of fields. And with the Virginia Derby winner, American Promise, fun fact for people, another Power Pick tip sheet play that day. BC Stables owns this horse. The coach, Dwayne Lucas. Nick Juarez, I believe, is going to hop on this horse.
Yep.
Again, another really good horse, really good story. Problem is, Howard, I'm going to let you go first here for American Promise. Another horse that's going to be a part of the early pace scenario, and that has been said by the coach himself, saying that they are going to go.
On tonight's show at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have Matt Bernier on, and I believe he called this horse. I can't recall the nickname he gave this horse, because this horse is over 17 hands. This horse is huge. This horse is taller than Kyle and Patrick combined. This is a big
in width or height.
Wow. Wow. All right. All right.
That's
anyway,
more to me, Kyle. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
he's a Justify, and Kyle, you see Justify in person, I think. I can't recall if you haven't. Yeah. He looks but out of a Tappet mare. He is all muscle. He is big. He's a little bit. I don't know how nimble he is. I think he'd prefer an outside post. I did like him in the Virginia Derby a little bit. In fact, that was NHC weekend, and I crushed that race selfishly with the 1-2 finish with Render Judgment for second because I was so against Handicapping Road in that race. I'd be a little bit dubious of the time. People see 45, 108. Holy cow. Colonial was really, really fast that day. But this is the coach. I would never doubt him. This horse cost $750. When D-Wing gets a horse good, they can get good. And remember what happened last year with a gray horse that had a pretty, for my racehorse, that had a pretty darn good season. I'm going to give him the problem is the pace scenario. Again, if there wasn't as much pace, I would throw this horse in the top 3, maybe, right? It just doesn't, the scenario doesn't suit. Okay, I'll give him 3, maybe 4 out of 10 to hit the super. He's a little bit interesting only because of the respect of Dwayne and the breeding. Mm-hmm. But I think he's got a lot going against him from a pace scenario. That's what we project. You want this horse to have an outside post, by the way. You don't want this horse like stuck down on the inside in between and getting bumped, and he'll be liable, Pat, to bump a horse right off the rail into the infield or something. So this is a big mofo, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, has been working very fast too.
Yes, he has.
So I think that has that going for him. What the coach is looking to pick up his 5th, I think, Derby. That would be pretty spectacular. But
unbelievable.
I'd give this horse a 3. I think all 5 or 6 horses that we've talked about, I'm not going above a 3 yet.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I don't know where these 3s are coming from. I'd give him a 1 to a 1.5. I don't think he's a very good horse. I think he's big, he's fast, he's exciting. They paid a lot. He's working fast. He's going to be part of the setup. Quite honestly, the only race he ran against any decent horses were the Southwest and the Risen Star, and he didn't show up at all in either of those. I think that's just who he is. I think people are right, though. Maybe he did also just peak last race, and it worked out for him. I think people are going to see the coach. They're going to see Justified. They're going to see the price tag and some of these big numbers. I think this is the horse we've covered that's going to get overbet. And this horse has absolutely no chance. I don't entirely disagree with Noah if it wasn't for Owen Almighty, but I think he said somewhere this is the favorite to come last. He's got to be up there. I know we had somebody in our draft saying to take this horse. I couldn't have been happier that we didn't end up with him.
Charlie, why don't you just come out and say that it was a horrible pick by me? I mean, just come on in the draft.
It was the last round pick.
Why beat around the bush? Just say, Howard, you're a dumbass. I mean,
it's the last round pick. You're just picking anybody. I'm not going to say that. It's not that crazy.
According to Charlie, Chunk of Gold has twice better chance of finishing the super than this horse.
I think we should get a sign.
Who, by the way, Charlie did beat Publisher when he broke his maiden. Yep. Just want to say,
at that time, but Publisher's gotten way better.
Yes. People are stealing my thunder here. Anyway, guys, moving on. Again, this is a horse that's getting very good at the right time, and I think the works though tell exactly what Dwayne Lucas wants from this horse, and they want to go. And that's problem is we've already mentioned 3 other horses that want to go already in this race, and again, he
did set off Handicapping Road last time.
Correct.
I don't like the race, but I'm just saying he did. He wasn't.
I think I will like this
sit and then finish. I mean, decently there.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fact that he's bigger, would be probably a lot better with an outside post, and if he's able to get an outside post and maybe sit, right off the speed or something like that, this could be another one to have the most likely lead at the top of the stretch. Just a matter of if he does, and they don't go as fast as we're predicting. This horse has a chance. It's just a matter of what's the pace scenario going to look like, as we mentioned so exhaustingly at this point already. I give him a 3.5 to get into the top 4. And
love our new people in the chat, by the way.
Yep,
Kyle.
Absolutely. And Cindy and the Sun. Grande, unfortunately, Grande will not be talked about in this. What?
Sandy and the Sun. I think you said Cindy. That's okay. No, go ahead.
I didn't think so, but either way, if I'm that drunk off half a beer, then we're in the business. But Grande, of course, will not be talked about. He's going to take a little bit more money than the bottom 10. However, tune in to the top 10 coming soon to the HHH Racing Podcast. Go ahead, Howard.
I have a quick trivia for everyone. You talked about horses that were big prices, whatever, in terms, Rich Strike. Does anyone know where the term upset came from? Like, wow, that was a big upset.
No, I don't.
No idea.
Upset was the name of a horse. This is true. In the 1910s, he was the only horse to beat Man of War. The name of the horse was Upset. And guess what, Patrick? He was an NJ bred.
Oh, that's
He was a douchebag. He was a sick.
There you go. Upset. Look it up, people. Upset was actually.
I believe
it.
All right. And funny enough,
See,
I don't know.
We teach as well as we educate.
As around here.
Anyway,
this is why people come to the HHH Racing Podcast to learn their trivia. Guys, moving on to a horse that honestly, this is another horse that's going to take. I'm upset. Yeah, that's exact. Drake coined that term, by the way. Thanks, Tanner. A long time since I've seen your name in the chat. Thanks so much for joining the show, man. Greatly appreciate it, guys. Moving on to a horse that I think is going to take a lot more money than this horse deserves. I'm just going to kind of lay it out there a little bit early. Final Gambit for Brad Cox. Luan Machado rode last 3 times and is going to take the mount here again. I don't remember. It started. So Patrick, I'm going to start with you on Final Gambit. This is going to be probably your favorite to be last early.
Yeah. Sired by Not This Time, who has success with both runners on turf and dirt. Epicenter, one that comes to mind. This horse I will be playing in my exactas, trifectas, and superfectas. I think if he can handle, this surface switch, obviously that's a big if, but I could see this horse picking up a lot of pieces late and picking up a lot of ground to hit the board with an in the money finish. I'll give this horse a 7. I'll give this horse an 8 on my board.
That's a strong 8, ladies and gentlemen. Patrick, you can tell when he talks with conviction. So hey, Final Gambit is one that's going to be picking up a lot of pieces late, Charlie. The problem with me is though, he's a 1-number horse. There's no doubt about that. He jumped 27 points in that last race.
No, I know. And look, Brad has said he's taken well to the dirt in his works, but I don't think he's really going to openly say he hasn't. Look, this is a horse where I was the idiot who gave him out on our show at 15-1 and didn't actually end up playing him because that's just how it goes. Not much of a turfway guy myself, so I don't normally like to bet it. Look, that effort was great, but as we talked about earlier with Flying Mohawk, it was setting up for those kinds of horses. The number was great, but look, it's Juddmont, which I don't even think we touched on yet, so that normally takes money. It's Brad Cox, that takes money. I think one interesting question is who's going to ride, because it probably should be Machado, but I don't know if he doesn't give it to Giroux, then I don't think Giroux is a ride. So I don't know what's happening there if that's already been announced. Look, I agree with what you said, Kyle. I think this will be the horse, as Noah said, his idea of Built potentially being the horse on the lead on the turn. I think Final Gambit's the best bet when they start to be the horse in dead last. I don't think he's anywhere near as good as any of these other closers. Look, I love me a closer. I'd probably give him 2.5 to at most 3 stars to get up for the super. I don't know where that number came from. I don't have dirt for him to work with. I don't think he's anywhere near as good as the closers that I like in this race. He's going to get massively overbet.
We mentioned it, Howard, and even with the 90.
Chat, by the way, Machado is the mount. So
Machado is the mount, yes.
Yeah,
and Bittersweet, thank you for that. Appreciate it, which he should be. He's rode the last 3 times and he's rode well. Again, we mentioned it, Howard. The breeding on this horse is, it's all distance, obviously, but he's gonna run with clouds, and he ran one good buyer in this last race, and he's gonna try dirt for the first time, and he's gonna take some money off that.
So a few things. First of all, it was Getaway Car in the Virginia Derby, not Madcat Road. I get confused with the overrated Baffert horses. Sorry.
There we go.
Actually, Madcat Road's a good horse too, but again, not a distance horse. Anyway, thank you. That was, I think, Rudy in the chat mentioned that. Someone mentioned, let's see, Hot Rod Horseplayer mentioned that he doesn't like Final Gambit because a complete fade based on the thorograph pattern, which I am familiar with and I do use. Matt Bernier made a good analogy, and I'm going to let people watch our show later tonight, and he talked about this horse. This horse has been turning some eyes in the mornings on the dirt. He's been working very well. If the pace develops, I have a simple question. When you want to rate the dead closers in this race, where does Final Gambit fit? If the race falls apart a little bit, I see no reason why this horse can't finish in the top 5 or 6. Top 4, okay, probably a little bit of a stretch. He's getting better. He wants distance. He's working well. The breeding says distance. I think he's a bit interesting. I mean, selfishly, he was one of our fantasy horse, Derby horses here. I have no, qualms about him finishing the top, 2 or 3. I don't see that. But 4th, 5th, 6th, coming on like a train late. How about, right along with Sandman, the 2 grays want to, come on late, and they're just going to have a little fun with each other.
That's
I don't think
crazy
it's impossible.
disrespect. That's crazy.
What odds can I
like
take
I said,
from you, Charlie?
Sandman's gonna finish a very solid 4th or 5th. I mean,
That's his floor. His floor is 4th. He's way more talented. I'm sorry.
There we go. There's the Sandman love we all
I know
knew
I
was
won't get to
coming.
speak on him because he's a top 10 horse. Obviously, that would be a given. But
I mean,
it's okay.
Sandman's better than Final Gambit. I'm not stupid. I'm just saying
Yeah, I know what you mean.
similar style, both
Very
grays,
similar
blah, blah,
running
blah.
styles. It's my problem with Final Gambit is the fact that 90 is his best by 25 points, and he's still slow comparatively to all the other closers in this race. So,
Well, the great chunk of gold has 292. So
I know.
Final
Yeah, but
Gambit's
that's-
only 2 points off that.
Yeah,
I
those
know, and I'm giving him a
292s
higher
also-
point off of, I'm giving him a
Just-
higher than chunk of gold just
just saying.
because of that breeding. I'm a 4.5 out of 10. I think he definitely has a chance to run top 6. Like I said, if the pace falls apart, but it's a horse that's what his odds I think are going to be come post time. Trying a bunch of stuff for a first time and is going to be at least look slow on numbers. It's not one I would want to take too high in my exotic wagers in the Kentucky Derby. But guys, we'll keep this one moving along. We got 3 horses left to cover. And guys, if you guys weren't here at the top of the show, we have a Kentucky Derby package for the Power Picks. It's over 20 pages long, guys. Couldn't recommend it more, even though we are, of course, a little biased. But if you go to HHH Racing Podcast.com, I'll show it on the screen right now. This is what you guys see when you guys go to HHH Racing Podcast.com. This big blue banner at the top. Click here to subscribe to the Kentucky Derby and Oaks Power Picks. You guys get full card of ABC grids, top 3 selections from the stakes from every single co-host on the HHH Racing Podcast. Best bets from us, long shot plays, price plays, spot plays that you guys all love from the normal Power Picks that we do over on Patreon. And again, the one thing I want to point out is that if you guys already subscribe to our Team HHH, you guys already receive these as part of your subscription, so you do not need to purchase them. However, if you are only a current Power Picks on Patreon subscriber, you do need to pay for them, but you do get a discount for that. It's $40 for current Power Picks subscribers, but if you are new or don't subscribe to the Power Picks, it is $50 one-time payment. But again, that's for over 20 pages of information. You average that out, Howard. That's only about what, $2.50 a page, I believe, Mr. Mathman.
Yep, it's a great deal. By the way, I don't mean to detour, but I just noticed Charlie's banner from someone from Chicago. The pizza cap. I know Patrick's about to push back with the New York, New Jersey thing, but the best non-thin crust pizza, let's say, in the world, and Charlie goes with Domino's as a lot.
Oh no, it's not my favorite
That's a
pizza
bit
place. It's a joke that Kyle
So-
gets from our group chat. It's about the Domino's two
boy.
medium pizzas for $14. I think it's one of the greatest deals in mankind.
Charlie, have mom or dad ship you some Lou Malnati's. Come on.
I would much rather have Lou
Don't even
Malnati's.
say
That's
that
the
to me.
best pizza.
You want
in
to
my
ship
head.
me Lou Malnati's, Howard?
Patrick, what's the best pizza in your area? Would you say?
Called Kinchley's Thin Crust.
Okay, nice.
It's nowhere near as good as Lou's.
If you're in the Chicago area, it's Kaluda's to
What are you putting on
answer
that,
everyone
Pat?
else's
What are
question.
you putting on that, Pat?
I like a little fried Diablo. Spicy
Whoa.
fried Diablo. Yeah.
Oh.
All right, Kyle, before we run 2 over, who do we
I
got?
know. We're getting
Moving on,
into
sorry.
the next, guys. Nice little
And I'm the one
detour
that
for you
told
guys.
Kyle we got to move things along. All
Yeah,
let's go.
exactly.
Next-
You
next
see how
one.
this goes, everyone? You see how this goes?
Oh, geez.
Either way, guys, last 3 horses, of course, we're going to talk about. I think this is going to be the start maybe the one in the middle is not going to be too much love. I think this one's going to get a lot of love. This is, of course, Publisher for Gus King and Estate of Brereton, C. Jones, Steven Asmussen trains, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, although I don't know, because Pratt rode this horse last time, but I don't think Pratt's it's IRAD, right? Yes, correct, on Publisher. So that's going to talk to a little bit about some of the money on here, and of course, people are going to say, well, Publisher is going to take a lot more money, because IRAD and stuff. Look, guys, we're not all perfect. We're trying to go off of morning lines here. Hey, Scott likes the to be fair, 2 pizzas for $14 is a pretty good deal. I will tell you that much.
As a college student, that's incredible.
That is an incredible deal. It's better. Hey, the Skeezers for $5 though. That was the true
great call, Chris.
Top stuff. There you go.
That's amazing. I love to hear that. That's great.
We have fans from all over the country, Pat. It must make you feel proud then.
We do. Sure. Charlie, I'm going to let you start first here on this one. Publisher, again, getting back to the actual horses at hand, ran second to your beloved in the Arkansas Derby. Ran in the Rebel was, and this is another one though that's going to be very far back early in theory.
Yeah, also one that's definitely going to take betting, but I think deserves it. I'll tell you what, when we did our draft, everything went to plan for what Noah and I wanted, except for this pick. And we said that we thought the key to the draft was going to be what Pete and Paul did, and they took Luxor. And all I was thinking is, please just don't let Howard and Matt make that trade bite us in the ass and end up taking Publisher. And then they did, and I was heartbroken. I love this horse so much. I ended up landing it officially on my big board at 7th. I think he could absolutely hit the tries, absolutely the superfectors. I think I would even take a chance to maybe put a little bit in the exactas. I don't think he's quite fast enough. I think he is, as Howard was saying for Sandman, he thinks he's a really safe bet to finish, in that 3rd to 6th range. I think Publisher is a pretty safe bet to finish in like that 3rd to 8th range. I really do. I think he's getting better and better. I get that he's a maiden, but look at all the horses he's ran against. The fact that they had the confidence to put him in these bigger fields, and look at the odds changes. How about going from a grade 3 to a grade 2 to a grade 1 and going from 54 to 11 to 7? The public have already been respecting him. So they're going to again. He's been working great in the mornings. Now I will acknowledge, I read some reports, and if anybody else wants to speak on this, that apparently Tistastic is not a good workout horse, and that it's not crazy that Publisher looks so much better than him. So I don't know what to make of that. I love this horse. He's getting better with every single start. I think someone in the chat, I think Hot Rod maybe said that too. I'd put him at a 7 to be in the superfecta, and I'd probably put him at a 4.5 to be in the try.
I don't think that's really out of the means of possibility at all. Howard, again, Charlie already hit on it. You guys took him in the fantasy draft we did, and I know you were pretty high on this horse too. And obviously with the addition of IRAD, doesn't exactly get worse from there.
Yeah, he had big time trouble 3 back in the Southwest. Take a look at it. The Rebel got a little bit of a weird trip and still came on. Guys, the key for this horse to me is the blinkers. I mean, that cannot be a coincidence. Put blinkers on in the Arkansas Derby and finished fantastically. I think, he was I'd have to look at the final quarter times to look at the chart, but I'm pretty sure Publisher was about the same final quarter, final eighth as Sandman. It wasn't that far off. He's getting better. You're right, Charlie. Tistastic's not a great workhorse, but I mean, he sort of embarrassed embarrassed Tistastic in the morning.
Agreed. This is the Asmussen I want.
Yeah. So I like this horse a lot. I for once in the show, I completely agree with Charlie. I would even, if this horse was, in the 20s, I'd probably throw a shekel or two on him on the win end just to have it. I think he's got a great shot to finish 2nd through 5th, but he does need the right trip. And I also don't think he's going to be quite as far back as people think, just with IRAD, just a gut feeling. I like him. I think Pat, I think this is a horse we're going to see in New York over the summer as well.
Yeah, I'm not as big a fan as you guys are. I don't know. This horse, the last time this horse was close to victory, I think we go back to when it lost to American Promise by a length and a half. This horse isn't for me. Obviously, though, we bring up the pace. So maybe this horse with the blinkers, like you said, Howard, that'll work. But I'll have this horse as a 4 on my board.
I give him I rate him.
Fair.
I don't rate him as high as Charlie does, but I don't rate him as low as you do, Pat. I give him a solid 5.5 or something, around 5.5 to 6 to finish in the superfectas. Look, he's going to have a devastating late kick that we've seen already. I completely agree with Howard on the blinkers aspect of it. And I also agree that IRAD has tended to be a little bit more aggressive in these bigger races, obviously, especially the Derby, because of how much how many factors go into winning the Derby. But of course, he's still a maiden. You have to take that into account. I don't feel like that can be completely lost on everybody. But that 95 buyer in the Arkansas Derby behind Sandman is a very it has to definitely be taken into account. So again, 5.5 or 6 for me to finish in your superfecta. Go ahead, Howard.
Real quick, we've got a show next week, ladies and gentlemen, on how you bet the Derby.
Yep, correct.
You know, if you want to try supers, I think I'll just throw my 2 cents because I will not be on that show. I think Publisher, and I'd love to hear your opinions. We'll go on the next horse. I think Publisher is a great superfecta key for 3rd and 4th. If you play supers,
Agreed.
I think he's the perfect because of the price, because of a lot of things. I think he's a great horse to use in like 3rd and 4th only in a super. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. We're talking 3rd and 4th on this show, of course, and your rating. I feel like if he's going to be, somewhere in the 20-1 range or maybe even a little bit higher, I don't think it will be higher because of thing we like to call the IRAD tax around here. So if he's going to be somewhere around 20-1, I think it's definitely a horse that you can key underneath in your larger exotic wagers. Disciple of him, yes, I completely agree with you. You said it's not the best horse that wins, it's the horse that gets the best trip.
Oh, certainly last year.
Don't bring that up, Charlie. Don't bring up last year's Derby. We don't want to hear it. Anyway, talking about I agree. I'm going to do that. Unfortunately, I'm the one that has to keep talking.
Sorry, I had to watch it last night when I got to see a star on TV. It's not my fault.
I wouldn't watch that. I wouldn't watch that thing again if you paid me. If you want to see our reaction to that, you can go back and watch that show because that's probably the most depressing video in the history of YouTube. But either way, guys, moving on to what, in my opinion, is, again, last 2 horses is probably the best story of this year's Kentucky Derby. Yep. And it's a trainer that, again, a lot smaller barn over the years, but he got another good one, and it's super exciting to see him back in these races. That is, of course, Cole Battle. Lonnie Briley is your trainer. Norman Stables is the ownership, and Juan Vargas rode him last time. I believe that's who stays on him for the Kentucky Derby. This horse has earned over $1 million, Howard. Over just because of those races over down at Oaklawn. They're worth so much damn money, it seems like, at this point. And he's run good races. The problem is I don't think he's run fast enough races.
I'm going to defer to Pat. I'm not sure if Pat's gone first yet. Pat, I'm going to have you have this one first, my friend.
Okay. Yeah, listen, this is the so-called Cinderella story. I'm not sure if you guys would agree with that.
There you go.
Oh, look at that, Chris. Right on Johnny on the spot there. Yeah, 5 for 6 record on dirt. I'm just not sure this horse wants this distance. I think that's the big question here. I think hitting the board on May 3rd in this race would send these connections off. I mean, already making 1.1 mil. I forget it. But this horse is going to be bet, I do think, just because of the story behind it. I'm not a big fan of Cole Battle in general. So I'll have this horse as a 3 on my board. I'm not sure what else you guys want to hit on, but I don't think the horse is going to get the distance.
Yeah, I think Cole Battle is one of the safest bets in the field. I don't know what you guys think. The way I just visually watch him, he just seems like such a safe bet to finish like in the middle to lower half. Like, he just feels like a horse that screams he's going to finish like 10th to 14th or 15th. Like, he's not going to be as bad as the Owen Almighties that send like hell, because he's not going to send like hell. But I also don't think he's going to be one of those closers that we've talked about that's going to make up enough ground to get into that, 3 to 8 range. He just seems like one of those that's just, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, that's just going to kind of go around the track. He's just going to end up middle pack. Maybe he gets a little lucky and gets forward, or maybe because they go so fast, he's a little further back than usual. I just think he's going to finish around 1-2 spots higher or lower than wherever he starts, and he's just going to be one of those middle of the pack horses. I'd give him probably 2.5 to 3 max to get the super, and that feels generous. Love the story, love the trainer. His last 2 efforts were a big step up, but that just seems like who he is.
And Howard, the one thing I want to point out here is, if people that don't know, David Aragona for a good friend's DRF, that he posted his morning line right now for the Kentucky Derby. Cole Battle's 15-1 on his morning line because of how much money he thinks this horse is going to take. And I'll tell you, if this horse is going to be the same
People do
price
love
to
a
my
story.
left, I know, but this horse is going to be the same price as Grande in a race like this. I would much rather have one versus the other.
You know why I could take money? I wonder if Noah's roommate knows that this horse is not spelled the same as his first name.
Yeah, there's
all the Coles out there. Wait, oh, that's like that. That's not the that's not the name. That's actually it's not a mineral. What is it? It's a.
I know exactly what you're saying.
I agree with Pat. I don't get it. Another unbelievable story. I mean, Lonnie Briley, amazing. But the Rebel was a weird race. You can just ask Charlie. We all know what happened in that race. It was a weird start for Sandman, and there was bumping on the first turn, and it was just weird. He has one race above 90. I don't think he wants the distance. I agree. Fossil fuel. Thanks, Frank. Fossil fuel. That's why I'm a math guy.
Got smart people in the chat, so we're good.
I don't get it. I don't like him. 1 or 2 out of 10 to hit the super. Good luck to the connections. I don't like this horse at all.
Like I said, it would be a fantastic story if this horse does finish anywhere well. I'm with the camp on this one. If there's a ton of other closers in this race, and I'd much rather have a bunch. Like I could name 6 of them that I'd rather have versus this horse.
How about a chunk of gold, Cole Battle? Exactly.
Oh, there we go.
Sandman third. Let's come up with the environmental substances, everyone. Let's go. Anyone else?
Did journalism run to the parking lot? Like I don't understand on that. No, but look, dude, Lonnie Briley, he trained his first winner in 1991. Guys, I mean, it's an amazing story, and obviously, we hope for all the connections they run well. But again, it's a 2 for me. I don't personally see it in the superfecta, but again, would be super stoked if they did end up running well. Guys, last horse that we are going to talk about tonight, and of course tune in and hit the subscribe button because there's gonna be a ton more of Derby content coming out on the HHH Racing Podcast. Guys, the last horse we are going to talk about tonight is a horse that's been mentioned a lot already on this show. It is Tistastic, your Louisiana Derby winner, the other Steve Asmussen. This one is Winchell Thoroughbreds, and as I can put it up on the screen right now, funny enough, his picture on here is on a turf course, funny enough. But Steve Asmussen, Joel Rosario is going to take them out here again. Another horse that's almost earned $1.4 million. Charlie, I'll let you talk first, and Howard, I'll go to you to finish off. This is a horse, again, ran super well in the Louisiana Derby, but is one, again, 'tis the law. So glad that he has his first classic starter for his new sire campaign. Out of a Tapit mare, this horse wants all the distance. Just a matter of, again, when facing up against all the closers, is he good enough?
Yeah, and I sort of kind of see Tistastic, at least because of how many times he's run against him. I kind of see him as, and I mean this with all due respect, like Sandman from Wish. They run against each other a decent amount of times, and Sandman sort of just they run near each other, and then Sandman sort of says, all right, I'm just going to go faster and by you. And then he's just like, all right, I'll just kind of, follow behind you and help, clean up the mud from your feet. Look, I think he's a decent, nice horse. I think Asmussen's got 2 really solid horses here that are safe bets to, finish in the top 10. But as we talked about, I much rather have Publisher. Whether this horse is a bad worker or not, I think Publisher's the one with upside that's getting better. And Tistastic kind of I think he peaked at that 95. Don't really know where it came from. I always thought he was like, meant to be the bridesmaid, not the bride, just not like the horse. That being said, I'd give him 4.5 to 5.5. I'll just call it in the middle. Then 5 out of 10 hit the supers, maybe a 2 out of 10 hit the tries if everything somehow went perfect. I just don't see it. I don't think this is the Asmussen you want to be on. Not a bad horse. I think, again, safe bet finish in the top half, but just doesn't move me personally.
Howard, I'm going to you next. I know you feel pretty much the same way about this horse.
Steve wants to win the Derby so bad for Winchell. It'd be a cool story. I don't know what to make of this horse. I don't like the Louisiana form. I don't. I don't like Chunk of Gold. This horse did improve greatly, and Steve's no fool. So if this horse finishes in the top 5, would I be shocked? No. Would I bet that? No. 3 out of 10 to hit the super. I don't know why I don't love this horse. I know he improved a lot, Pat, but for some reason I don't see like a continued progression with him, and I don't really have a great reason to say it. To be very honest, I just don't have a great vibe, and that's not really a good answer coming from me, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I just see this horse does want to run all day. You want to Howard, you want to see this horse break through for the connections. I mean, if Steve could win with this horse, it would be unbelievable.
Well, I want to see it with Publisher since I have him in the in the Derby fantasy draft.
Well, Pat, we have this horse, so you know.
Well, Kyle, I'm going to go against the grain. I would prefer Tistastic over Publisher from you guys. But listen, I think this horse is a 5. I don't know, Howard. I do agree that the form is just all over the place. So yeah, you do like to see consistency, and Joel did give this horse a great ride.
Great
in
ride,
the Louisiana Derby. So
unbelievable ride.
Maybe he could do it again.
Yeah.
But
by the way, Kyle, did you say stoked a little while ago? What is it? Ryan Anderson on the show from the
yeah.
West Coast guys?
No, that would be toked, Howard, not stoked.
What?
That would be toked.
Whoa.
If you want to go there.
Let's keep it family. We got a lot of people watching.
Oh no, we're family
these are the
around
Derby
here,
shows,
Howard.
Kyle. Let's keep it.
I mean, this is called Bettin N Boozin, Howard. So we gotta have a little bit of fun on this show. But
good point.
I like this horse a lot, guys, and I might be a little bit against the grain here.
Okay.
I agree with Pat. I think this horse wants to run all day long. This horse is going to have it's going to have a ton of pace to run into. And realistically, and I know it's a little bit facetious, if you will, if you throw out the Rebel, I mean, this horse has a continued progression all the way through.
It's true.
Peaked at the best time with the Louisiana Derby, and is now going to sit in a race where he's going to be like 13th early. The horses are going to fade back into him, and he's going to be ahead of other closers that we've talked about tonight. Problem is that he's going to be a lower price than those other horses we've talked about. But I like this horse a lot more than you guys do, apparently. It's just a matter of, I think people are basing a lot off of one bad race. And look, that race was bad. He was on the rail the whole time and really never picked up his feet at all. But I think he showed what he really could do in Louisiana Derby at 1 3/16. Looked like he was only getting better later. And if he gets another 16th in there, he could definitely be one running for at least your supers, maybe even tries. I give him my highest grade of the night. I give him a 6.5 to finish in the superfecta. And if he continues to improve off that Louisiana Derby, I think he can definitely get in the exacta. And as long as we don't get Joel Rosario'd, as we will mention on this show a lot, that I think could be a horse for your exotics. And as Horsey Dave just asked, who's riding Tistastic? It will be Rosario. Guys, thank you all for joining. Howard, thanks for popping on the show. Greatly appreciate it. Talk about our best Derby long shots in the terms of the bottom morning line horses from number 20 to number 11. As I mentioned earlier on the show, tune in to watch Picks and Ponies after this show, as they cover with Matt Bernier and others, the Clements talking about Adelphi Racing horses, and the late pick 4, for opening day at Churchill. It's a very, very good show. Howard, I'll let you talk. What's going on?
We also have a top 10. We have a top 10 horses Sunday nights, I think 8 p.m. Eastern. Check. Actually, it's not up on YouTube yet, but it will be. So if those interested are in the top 10 horses, myself, Pete, and Paul, I can't remember who else. Are you on that, Kyle? I don't know. I think it's just myself, Pete, and Paul. Sunday night, top 10, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I was going to mention that, but also a ton more, including late pick 5 Oaks coverage, late pick 5 Derby coverage. Again, live Derby draw show, a ton of Kentucky Derby coverage coming out to you on the HHH Racing Podcast. So if you guys could hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button for the best Kentucky Derby long shots in our opinion. And again, thank you to all the chat. You guys were fantastic all night long. And if you're watching this as a replay, comment below the video player on who is your best long shot for the Kentucky Derby, maybe even one we didn't talk about on this show. But for my co-hosts, Charlie Freeman, Patrick Kunsel, and the host of Picks and Ponies and the founder of the HHH Racing Podcast, Howard Kravitz, this has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, episode 129 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.